Hi, welcome back to Carla Astrology. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different, and we're going to talk about Myers-Briggs and our palm and the association. I'm not going to go into big detail about association with the tarot card, but I'm using it as reference, the fact that the King of Wands, in association to what we're talking about today, which is the ENTJ in the Myers-Briggs, is associated with the King of Wands. So we have fire energy, and he's a king. So the ENTJ in the Myers-Briggs is called the commander. And E is for extrovert, N is for intuitive, T is for thinking, and J is for judging. So he's an extrovert, he's intuitive. That's the wand association. Thinking is also a wand association, and the judging. So all kings are extroverts and judging. So that we are going to associate with the king. And then the wands, the association is the fact that he is intuitive and thinking, which is a commander. You know, he's very intuitive and knows the next move. So he's strategic. So with that, the strengths of an ENTJ are: he's efficient, he's energetic, he's self-confident, he's strong-willed, or she, a strategic thinker, very charismatic and inspiring. Weaknesses could be that he or she is stubborn, dominant, intolerant, impatient, arrogant, poor handling. They don't handle their emotions well, and they could be cold and ruthless. You know, that's like a big Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius energy. So Aries is going to be the like the fool energy of the fire, and then Leo is more of the arrogant, and then you have Sagittarius, which is more of the controlled, as far as like associating the fire with the signs. So we have the King of Wands. All extroverts are going to have large mounts in their hands. And according to the characteristic, but most hands that you will see on an extrovert are going to be kind of bulky. King of Wands is fire. The ENTJ is fiery. So they're going to have what's called a fire hand. Now, I actually have a photo that I can share with you here that talks about the shapes. Okay, so we have fire, which is a rectangular palm with medium to long fingers. A earth hand is a square palm with short to medium fingers. An air hand is a square palm with long fingers, and a water hand is a rectangular palm with long fingers. Now, some people have a blending, which it kind of just speaks for itself. You know, we can associate the element that we're speaking of with the personality. So I have a fire and an air mixed hand. So in a fire, it's like when you close your hand, it almost looks like a flame. But my palm is rectangular and my fingers are medium, short medium. They're not really long. So which a fire hand is going to have more longer fingers, or no, short fingers. And the air hand is going to have the square palm with the longer fingers. So mine is a little bit of a blend. And if you want to be able to tell if your fingers are short or long, close your palm. And if your fingers are down here, they're long. If they're more up here, they're short. This is more medium. So, and just, you know, kind of, you don't want to curl your fingers in, but just kind of relax. Whatever that is, relax. So mine are like a blending of both, short and kind of medium. Okay, so we've established I have a fire hand. The other air and fire. So the other thing I would like to bring up is we have a dominant hand, which mine is right. Like if you throw a ball at me, I'm going to catch it with my right hand. I do have a lot of things that I do with both hands, but sure sign, if you throw something at me, I'm going to catch it with my right. And I prefer to write with my right hand. I can write with this hand, but it's not as legible. So the potential I was born with is going to be found in my less dominant hand. My right hand is going to show what I've done with that potential. So we're going to look for signs in both. But when you are looking at an ENTJ, the chances are that you are going to see the potential they were born with. So it's kind of like who they really are. And then in their dominant hand, you're going to see what they've done with that. So you might possibly see like some things might be underdeveloped because, and not the same as, because they still have some stuff to work on. Because for every positive, there's a negative, and for every strength, there's a weakness. For every, you know, there's an opposite. So there is polarity, and we can see that in our hands. So let's talk about the common aspects that we will see in an ENTJ's hand. So the mounts, we're going to see a high mount of Jupiter. And that is where we see, you know, that's our careers. So that's going to be a high mount. And possibly a star. A star on there is it's a very good sign of luck in their career. So you're going to see possibly a high mount and maybe a star. You're going to see a high mount of Apollo. That's where we find our success line, our sun line. You're going to see a high mount of Mercury. And Mercury is all about communication, which most of your extroverts are going to have a decent size Jupiter, a decent size Apollo, and probably always going to have a good size Mercury, because that's about communication. They don't mind getting out there. So, but these are going to be primarily, you're going to see these in the ENTJ. And then you're also going to see a high amount of Venus, because Venus is where we find, you know, our love of things. And they're a real go-getter. So Venus is possibly going to be bigger. And Neptune is where we find all that charisma. And that's right here between the moon and the sun. Now, we can see larger mounts also, but primarily you're going to see some fleshy areas up here and fleshy right here. You're also going to see a fleshy area right here. This is the inner lower of Mars. And this is where we find possibly, like, if it's overdeveloped, where they could be argumentative, they're, you know, aggressive. That's Mars. And Mars is where we find a lot of that fire energy. And then really good to, like, kind of balance the Mars energy is the upper Mars is going to be highly developed. You know, and that's where they find their willpower. That's why they're a commander, you know. They take charge of the situation regardless of, you know, what the outcome's going to be. They're like diving in. And the other thing that a ENTJ is going to have, okay, they're going to have a fairly deep heart line. Now, the heart line may vary in where it's pointing to, because, you know, they could be they're obviously passionate, but what they're passionate about depends on the individual. So, but it's always going to be deep. Now, the other little lines that you find in your hands, you know, like islands and squares and auspicious signs, like I talked about the star, those are less indicative of a personality type and more indicative of like events. So we're not going to talk about those as much. I did put the star because that is something that is very possible that you will find. There is a rare thing that happens with possibly the life or the headline is that sometimes it starts in Jupiter. And that is a rare sign, but that's possible for an ENTJ. Why? They're a commander. And if you find something like that in somebody's hand, that's almost like it speaks for itself of somebody that has a lot of power. Jupiter is power. And they have, or an honorable position because they're just, they're spiritual. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that go with a line like that. And it's a little bit rare, but you could possibly see the headline starting here and going across. But again, it's going to be deep because these people have a lot of mental strength. The lifeline, which is more about our vitality than it is about, how long we're going to live. It is about our vitality. So it's going to be deep. It doesn't necessarily have to be long, but it's going to be deep. And so again, like I said, you're not going to see, we're not going to talk about all the little lines because you could see those. You're going to see, grills and all sorts of stuff in people's hands that carry a lot of stress. So if somebody's in a position like a commander, and they take control of things, they're probably going to have some grills in their hands because that's stress. That shows stress. So that's really about it. And I'm hoping to keep this kind of short. Join me again, and we will be talking about the ENFJ, which is the King of Cups and the protagonist. So join me again, and we'll learn some more. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for joining me.